first time, the public can see the stark visual evidence of the violence Cassie testified that she suffered at the hands of Combs. We want to warn you that some of these images can be disturbing. The government releasing a new batch of images showing injuries Cassie described, plus thousands of dollars of cash found in a fanny pack, drugs and baby oil, all allegedly used during the sex parties witnesses have detailed. Earlier in the day, Dawn Richard, a former member of the girl group Danity Kane, wrapped up her testimony against Combs. She allegedly saw Combs abuse Cassie multiple times and urged Cassie to leave him. She testified about one incident saying, quote, Puff and Cassie were in the hallway arguing. He punched her in the face.
Was always anti-Diddy and was always speaking about Diddy as a problematic person, was 50 Cent. And it turns out that it's just been announced that he's created a docu-series on Netflix. I can't wait to see this. The other end of that, every person who has tried to speak out about this, who has tried to speak out about the industry, the type of people that are controlling the industry, the attacks that people face from the media if they try to speak out, is always the same. They're called crazy. And an example of one such individual who went through those sorts of attacks is the actor Orlando Brown. He was on Disney, and I remember everyone telling us that he was totally insane and deranged when he was saying a lot of things that at the time sounded crazy, particularly about Diddy. Take a listen.
The requirement is you gotta say no to Diddy. If it's new booty in the building, you know he's gonna get it.
Don't take your girlfriend to a Diddy party.
You can take the but he wants you.
Diddy, to me, is the fall guy. We are still seeing a major effort to protect the big names, just like with Jeffrey Epstein.
Welcome back to Grab Your Brew, and if you're new, welcome. Please like and subscribe.
This is week 2 of the Diddy case with highlights of the week's day-to-day court proceedings.
Keep in mind, Jodie knows less about the case, so she's mostly blind reacting to this as we're recording.
Yeah. First we have the full video of Cassie and Diddy in the elevator for all of you to discuss and people insulting her.
You will be shamed in this video, and there is a special place in hell for people like you, but we're going to be watching the full video that we've obtained that finally got released to the public and putting you on blast. So go ahead and grab your brew and join us. I love this picture of her because she looks so happy. In court, well, they're trying to ban Cassie's husband from being in the courtroom on her support team.
Has any reason been given for this? Because that's just...
There
Diddy's
what?
got his kids in there.
Yeah. I'm going to play the video because I don't know if you watch Rotten Mango. I love Rotten Mango, but Stephanie from Rotten Mango explains it a lot better than us. So we're going to go ahead and play that video.
Are not in the courtroom, like the fact that there is a fight to decide whether or not Cassie can have her husband in the courtroom being her emotional support. The defense attorney, Anna Esteveo, says, "We understand Ms. Ventura's husband, Alex Fine, may be present in the courtroom, and we expect him to be a potential defense witness, so we would ask that he be excluded." Which makes sense if he's also going to be on the witness stand. He should not be listening to another witness who also happens to be his wife and the mother of his soon-to-be 3 children. That makes sense. However, prosecutor Emily Johnson states more or less, "No, that doesn't make sense at all. We were advised of this approximately 10 minutes ago. He's not included on the defense witness list. Ms. Ventura's husband is here with his family to support his wife and testify publicly. We had, under the CVRA, she has the right to be treated with dignity and privacy, and she would like support in this courtroom as she testifies." To which lead defense attorney Tenny Garagos even states, "If I could just elaborate. What we have given the government is the witness list for our case in chief. The reasons are important because at this time, we can't really tell Your Honor who we know we would call. At this time, we can't say who definitely would call, and we certainly," the judge asks, "Wait, why wasn't this raised before this morning when he's here with his entire family inside this courthouse?"
Wait, so he's already in the courthouse and they're debating
Yes.
to kick him out?
Yes, he's in the courthouse waiting to come into the courtroom when Cassie comes in to testify. Cassie's brother is here, so is her cousin. "Your Honor, I apologize. I brought this up to Miss Comey, but not Miss Johnson yesterday. This is my fault. And then I didn't follow up on it last night. I apologize. We're not looking to not have her support people. Her brother is here who was around all the while in their relationship, and we have our application, Your Honor, is that Ms. Ventura's husband not be in the courtroom under Rule 615. Rule 615 is basically the don't be listening if you're going to talk rule. The rule provides courts with the authority to exclude witnesses from the courtroom to prevent them from hearing other witnesses' testimonies. I mean, the whole point being, it's to prevent witnesses from tailoring their testimony based on what they hear from other witnesses. So, for example, if everybody saw the defendant, this is not about Combs, just like a hypothetical defendant, if they saw him kick a koala, then it would be unfair for the group of people to hear each other testify about how he kicked them, what he said after he kicked the koala, and then they all testify in a row. Another thing that the defense points out is that Cassie's husband, at one point, did send a threatening message to the defendant, Combs. When Cassie and Combs were in the midst of their breakup, he sent, quote, "several very threatening text messages to our client saying that he would like to beat the F word out of his old..." Just several words that I will not repeat on the record. There are several threatening messages that my client received that we got in discovery from the government. And the reason we didn't put him on our witness list, of course, was because the witness list is for the defense's case in chief. But there are several potential witnesses that, depending on how the government's case comes in, we would have to put on in our case in chief, basically saying, depending on how the government handles this direct examination of Cassie Ventura, they might come in with forcing Alex Fine to testify.
Okay.
The government is so confused. They're arguing, I'm not really sure if at all he would be able to testify about an alleged rape that occurred between Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura. But we're open to having that dialogue, and we would ask that Ms. Ventura be allowed to have her support. Her people, including her husband, here in this courtroom. She has various rights under the Crimes Victim Rights Act, and we would ask that he be allowed to be present. And this is happening the morning that Cassie's to testify. So she's in the courthouse, and they're arguing whether or not her husband be allowed in. The defense, they do something interesting, though, because once Rule 16 is invoked, I mean, there's really nothing you can do about it. Once it's invoked, it's mandatory. You can't let him be in the courtroom. However, the defense, they come in swinging. They're like, no, we might call him on the defense witness list. He can't be in the courtroom. And then later they pull back a little bit and they state, we understand she would like her support people. If he wants to come into the courtroom today before we talk about the 2018 time period, we are fine with him remaining in the courtroom until then. We would just ask that he be excluded once we get into that time period. Eventually, it is agreed upon by the parties that Alex Fine, Cassie's husband, will only be removed for that particular part of Cassie's testimony. And it's hard to say what the real reason is on why the defense perhaps did not want Alex Fine in the courtroom.
That's what I was wondering.
It just...
I just love how happy she looks at him. But
Natural.
very natural, because she looks very withdrawn in the pictures that you see with Diddy. I mean, she looked kind of happy in the beginning of the relationship, but most of her pictures pose like...
Beginnings of relationships are different though, aren't they? The honeymoon stage.
Yeah.
Where you love barman.
Before you realise they're crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're in too deep. Cassie's husband's been there to support her from day one.
People are saying all these terrible things about how he should leave her because of the disgusting things that apparently happened. First of all, ew, you're disgusting human beings. And second, he knew the whole time and he's been supporting her for years.
Let's take a look at this flashback video of him running to raise money for domestic violence.
Cassie Ventura and husband of 6 years, Alex Fine, share an emotional embrace in this resurfaced video. The moment recorded in 2019, right after he finished a 50-mile run to benefit domestic violence victims.
I think the little things count more than the big things sometimes.
The clip taking on new meaning as Cassie, who's 9 months pregnant, gives her tearful testimony in the federal sex trafficking trial of her ex, Sean Diddy Combs, who
witness put in. There has been a surprise witness. There was a witness that was supposed to be pleading the fifth the whole time. He worked closely with Diddy. We have his name. However, in a last-minute submission, right before we went to lunch, the prosecution brought him in. We were like, what is going on? They literally sat him down and they said, are you willing? Are you planning to plead the fifth for everything? He said, yes, I am. We said, okay, what is going on? On top of that, there is an expert that testified that completely justified everything that Cassie said and done. She was fantastic. We'll get that to a second, but let's get back to the surprise witness. The surprise witness has just been given a last-minute immunity deal by the prosecution. I repeat, a last-minute immunity deal. Diddy's defense is reeling. Remember in the beginning of this trial, what did the prosecution say? The prosecution said, if you are not a witness, you are a co-conspirator.
Who's she talking about?
George Kaplan is a former Diddy assistant. He receives complete immunity because, like she said in the video, it was like, if you're not going to come forward and talk, then you are now a co-conspirator. Originally, he was pleading the fifth. But now that everybody's stuff's coming out, you know you're going to end up being a co-conspirator. So people are now talking for immunity. But yeah, he was a former personal assistant, and he claims that he quit because he could no longer deal with the abuse, like covering the abuse. But he did testify, basically when everybody went on their lunch break and the jury left the room and the press were about to get up and leave, he came in and signed the plea deal. Is it plea deal? The immunity deal.
I'm sorry,
Immunity
but at what
deal.
point does it become too much? Where's your line drawn? It's insane.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line? At what point did you think, oh, this is too much shit for me? After all that's already happened that we've seen in the videos already, where do you draw the line?
They draw the line when their own ass is about to get in trouble.
Yeah, so it's not a conscience.
It's not a conscience, no. You don't quit for your conscience.
No.
You call the police for your conscience. You record evidence for your conscience.
This is the scary thing about people in positions of power or people with money. They can push limits,
Mm-hmm.
and luckily it's catching up this time.
Out of terrify. Out of fear.
Yep. We'll look at the next clip.
Yeah. Let's see what he said.
Just saw that video sent in of Kid Cudi walking in, smoking that cigarette, getting ready for the big day. When is it supposed to happen that he's going to be called up?
Hi there, Julie. Well, the cross-examination of George Kaplan, the ex-personal assistant of Sean Combs, that just got underway a few minutes ago. So we do have some time yet before Kid Cudi is called to the stand. But here's a picture of, well, this is George Kaplan. He's making his way into the courthouse this morning. So he started on the stand yesterday testifying about a lot of things. We'll get to his testimony in a moment. But then we can also play for you that video of Kid Cudi. So everyone was gathering outside. Every time one of the bigger cars comes up in front of the federal courthouse, people go over there to see, and there you saw him, Kid Cudi, making his way outside of his vehicle and smoking that cigarette. And somebody yelled to him, "I like your fit," talking about his very casual outfit that he had on, not being too serious, Julie. So it was it's always an interesting scene when you see some of these celebrities make their way out of the car in their style.
Right. He's got on jeans, right? Jeans, blue jeans, a leather jacket, white T-shirt.
Yeah.
Okay. A little casual for
not
federal
exactly
court.
a court outfit, but
right.
You know.
Right, Kelly. I know. The government needs him. I don't think they're going to send him home to change his pants. I think they're going to just get up there and tell us what you can. My gosh, Kelly, his testimony is going to be so key, as you know, going to one of what we know are those predicate crimes underneath the big overarching charge here of the racketeering conspiracy. Tell us a little bit about what the jury's heard so far regarding that arson, if you would, please.
Yeah, so when Cassie Ventura, this is Sean Combs' ex-girlfriend, when she was on the stand, she talked about her relationship with Kid Cudi. And so how did Sean find out about it? Well, she had gotten a burner phone. That was something, Julie, that on cross, defense counsel was really asking her about. So you got a burner phone to hide the relationship that you were having with Kid Cudi, to cover up that you were being unfaithful to Sean Combs. And she just said, well, I did have the burner phone, but it was during one of those freak-offs, Julie, that Sean then looked at her regular phone, not her burner phone, and she saw some messages. He saw some messages between Cassie and Kid Cudi. He did not like that. Again, this was during one of those freak-offs, and then that led to that beating at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. We've seen that video before. So Kid Cudi, rather, is going to be talking about his relationship, although it was short, with Cassie Ventura. And Cassie was testifying that they pretty much had to end their relationship out of fears for their life, and that there's information that Sean Combs he had someone torch Kid Cudi's car. So we're going to be hearing about that.
My goodness, Kelly, my goodness. Yeah, my understanding, Cassie was telling the jury that Diddy said it was going to happen when she and he were going to be out of the country, and that Diddy wanted Cudi's friends to see it happen. Is that correct?
Exactly, Julie. That is correct. That is absolutely correct.
Goodness.
So we're going to hear all about that. But that cross of George Kaplan, that's getting underway, Julie. And what they're talking about there is he was just so excited to start working for Sean Combs. And so he would start to see all of these things take place. He was on direct describing an incident on a private plane between Sean and Cassie, in which he described Sean as holding up like a rocks glass. And heard Cassie then say, isn't someone seeing this? Talking about a beating that was taking place right there in the moment. Now, George eventually left because he said he was tired of hiding the domestic violence from everyone. So he's a former executive assistant to Combs, and he testified that he witnessed Combs be violent with Ventura while on that private jet in 2015. He did hear that glass break and saw Combs standing over Ventura. He told the jury that Ventura did scream, isn't anyone seeing this? So that's been some of the testimony testimony. He has testified to several incidents of domestic violence that he saw at the hands of Sean Combs toward Cassie, and then also a name we've heard in this case, Gina. Julie, when Cassie was on the stand, as well as one of her friends, that was Carrie Morgan, she was saying that Gina was a real problem. George Kaplan was talking about some domestic violence that he witnessed toward Gina as well, a time when Sean was throwing apples really hard at Gina, and Gina was covering her face.
Oh, my goodness. It gets worse every day, Kelly.
Here is another testimony, and we have Kid Cudi, for those of you who, like me, didn't know who he was.
Kid Cudi is an American rapper, songwriter, producer, and so much more. Very much a philanthropist. And much more. But in this case, it's most important that he did date Cassie and almost got killed for it.
The next clip is an update from Law and Crime of Kid Cudi on the stand.
What was happening today? We've been talking about Kid Cudi's testimony, week 2 in general. But right now I want to bring on Elizabeth Milner, our Law and Crime reporter, who is inside that courtroom for Kid Cudi's testimony. Now, one of the things I want to ask you about, Elizabeth, is we're reading the transcript, right? We're reading what he said on the stand. What was his tone like? Because I got to tell you, he was hitting one-liner after one-liner after one-liner. By the way, shows up in court, leather jacket, smoking a cigarette. I mean, this is Kid Cudi, major celebrity comes in. What was the substance of what he was saying? And I got to ask you the tone in which he was saying it.
Well, obviously, I didn't see the cigarette smoking part. I was inside the courtroom when this was going on, but it was a packed courtroom today, Jesse, despite it being very cold outside today, despite it even pouring down raining this morning when I came to court today. A lot of people were inside that courtroom because a lot of people wanted to know what did Scott Mescudi, aka Kid Cudi, really have to say. So when he walks inside the courtroom, to your point, Jesse, he was very, very casual. He had on a leather jacket. It was a little bedazzled. He had on a white t-shirt. He had on jeans, something that you kind of really don't see necessarily, especially in federal court. I mean, all the other witnesses have been in suits, even some of the escort witnesses, but for Kid Cudi, he just came in very casual. He just walked right to the witness stand, didn't pay Diddy any type of attention from what I could see of him, but he got onto the witness stand and swore that oath like he normally, like all the other witnesses do, and then that's when we got into the testimony. And let me just say, Jesse, there was so much testimony. I was just writing things down and down and down again because there was really so much. And we knew about kind of the Molotov cocktail incident, especially because it was laid out in Cassie's federal lawsuit, right? But just hearing Kid Cudi explain it from his own words were just a whole nother level, I could say.
So people were laughing, right? People were laughing when he was testifying because he made that one comment that he sees Sean Combs, he had a meeting with him, and said he looked like a Marvel supervillain. Were people laughing?
No. Yes, people were laughing, but if you're going to ask if Diddy was laughing, it didn't seem like he found that joke necessarily funny, but there was definitely some courtroom laughter, even from some of the jurors who were in the box. They were laughing as well, too, but from what I could see of Diddy, it didn't seem like he had much laughter going on in that specific moment, which was a complete 180 from kind of his demeanor when George Kaplan was testifying, where he seemed a little more jovial. He was laughing along, but when Kid Cudi came on the stand, it felt like the smile just whoop went down, right, and he had more of a serious demeanor and serious tone listening to Kid Cudi testify.
And because, you know, Kid Cudi was providing some quite important pieces of damning evidence against Sean Combs. I mean, talk to us about his direct examination. What were some of the highlights that you took away from his direct examination? Because the prosecution, in my opinion, I was talking about it before, they're calling him not only to corroborate, I think, the account of Cassie, but to establish some of the elements of racketeering, right? The underlying crimes of maybe kidnapping, arson. Talk to us about some of the big moments from his direct examination, and then we'll talk about what the cross-examination was like.
Right, because the jury has been hearing about Scott Mescudi a lot, and they've been referring to Kid Cudi as Scott Mescudi during this. So seeing Kid Cudi in the flesh, I'm sure a lot of people wanted to know, what did he have to say about December 2011 specifically? Now, around that time frame, police actually responded to Kid Cudi's then home. He's no longer in that home anymore now, but they responded to a call about a break-in at his home. So he said that day actually started with a call from Cassie herself about 5:30, 6:30 in the morning. And Cassie relayed to Kid Cudi that Diddy had found out that the two were dating, and she sounded kind of stressed during this phone call. So what Kid Cudi did was he picked her up, he took her to a hotel called Sunset Marquis, so that way it was a little safe for her to kind of hang out there and be at that hotel. But Kid Cudi at the time said he didn't think that Cassie was even dealing with Diddy at this point. Diddy had asked actually for Kid Cudi's address around this time, and one of the big moments was that Cassie was the one who actually gave Diddy Kid Cudi's address. And so Kid Cudi said he didn't know what Diddy was going to do. Then when he was at the hotel, he actually got a call, or he had spoken to Capricorn Clark, somebody that was Cassie's friend, but also somebody that had worked for Diddy. And so when Kid Cudi was speaking to Capricorn Clark, Capricorn sounded scared on this phone call, pretty much on the verge of tears, because it was Diddy, one of his affiliates, an unnamed person, and Capricorn Clark were at Kid Cudi's home. Kid Cudi was kind of describing that essentially Capricorn Clark was essentially taken by physical force to go with them to Kid Cudi's home while Kid Cudi wasn't even there. So Kid Cudi could verify that Sean Combs, aka Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, whatever we're calling him, was inside his home when he wasn't there. Kid Cudi said that he actually went home after speaking with Capricorn Clark and just kind of rushed over there. Then we see an exhibit photo of the entrance of Kid Cudi's old home. It's the home of the break-in, and you see the front gate door. And he described his neighborhood at the time being as far as being very quiet, family-oriented, and they had to kind of mention that he was driving a Porsche around that time. So Kid Cudi actually called Diddy while he was driving home, and there was some profanity here, so bear with me, everyone. He said, "Mother effer, are you in my house?" And Diddy said, "I just want to talk to you. I'm here waiting for you." And surprisingly, Kid Cudi explained that Diddy sounded relatively calm while he was on the phone speaking to him. So Kid Cudi thought his security cameras were working, and turns out he said someone kind of had moved them and angled them a little bit down, so that way I guess whatever was going on wasn't captured on that video. And they had moved them the opposite angle, and said Kid Cudi verified he wasn't the one who moved those security cameras. But when he got home, Jesse, he said gifts were open on the kitchen counter. Stuff was pretty expensive. It was from Chanel. And that his dog, surprisingly, was locked in the bathroom. Now, his dog normally roams around free like a lot of our pets normally do. I mean, my cats right now are probably wandering around. I would never lock them inside the bathroom while I'm out of home or anything like that. So I can understand why that really stood out to him as far as his dog being inside the bathroom with the door closed. But he had that dog for about a 2-year period, and noticed that after this break-in had happened that his dog became jittery and was always on edge at the time. So Kid Cudi got back into his car, he says, and called Diddy because he wanted to fight Diddy. He wanted to square up essentially and just find him and fight him because he believed that Diddy broke into his home. And so he said after this phone call, he thought about the reality of the situation and what more could possibly escalate from that situation. So what he ended up doing is he just called the police. And when he had returned home, because remember, he was driving around looking for Diddy, essentially wanting to fight him, he says. And when he returned home, the police were there at his home. He filed a report, and then he was speaking with Cassie about the situation. And Cassie seemed pretty depressed about the situation.
We have yet to see a whole witness list.
So maybe take it with a grain of salt, but here are the names of some of the celebrities that have been brought up so far. Not only them, but we also have Britney Spears.
Suge Knight, the founder of Death Row Records, was mentioned on the First Day Adventures testimony, as she recounted a time when Combs fled the house dressed in black, wielding weapons, to go to dinner with Suge Knight.
Austin, a singer and music producer, who dated Diddy's late ex-wife Kim Porter, who died in 2018.
Lorianne Gibson, a choreographer that worked with the disgraced rapper.
Harvey Pierre, am I saying that right?
Pierre, I think so.
Yeah, is a record executive who worked with Diddy's label Bad Boy Entertainment.
Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child, because we also know that Jay-Z and Beyonce's names have been brought up, along with Kanye West.
I'm sure there'll be many more names to come.
Along with Kim Porter's ex-husband, I'll be sure. Of course, he's joining the mix. He's been very vocal over the years. about how he knew Kim Porter was murdered and did not die of pneumonia.
Peanut. Okay. So my attorneys worked something out. So I believe when the time is right, I'm going to discuss it with my attorneys.
But you're willing to?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, I am.
Yes, guys, Albie Shore is back and ready to take the stand to spill on everything. And I mean everything he knows about Diddy. Child, if there's one thing about this man, he has never changed his story.
Yes, many, many years ago, I posted some information that was, basically trying to save my life. And thank goodness to my ex, the wonderful Kim Porter, the late Kim Porter, who, kind of warned me all along the way to, just kind of watch your back, so on and so forth. And I didn't understand why.
Because of Diddy.
Reportedly, Al is set to be among the people who will take the stand in Diddy's trial. And if he is going to repeat the same things he has been saying for years, it's definitely not going to be good for Diddy's character, which is being put to test in the trial. And by the way, Al has also added some more info on Kim Porter's situation. So how about we just get right into it? See, before Kim started dating Diddy, she was in a relationship with Al B. And other than having Quincy together, Kim even confirmed that she was the one who inspired Al B's song, Forever My Lady. According to Al, they were actually married. And he first talked about their marriage in an interview with Fox Soul, where he said, "Every time I post something, I forget it's me. I'm a grandfather, so my concern is not being popular and trying to get numbers and likes. That's not what I do. But I posted something the other day talking about my ex-wife. Yeah, I said it. My ex-wife, Kimberly. But nobody knew because we didn't discuss being married. We didn't discuss that. Every so often, I give her a tribute." Okay, the thing is, Al and Kim pretty much maintained a friendly relationship after their separation. And if there's one person who has said time and time again that there was definitely foul play in Kim's death, it's Al.
Basically.
Do you believe that she died of pneumonia?
Absolutely not.
Why? What evidence do you have?
She was in the best of health. We just saw each other prior to her passing. We were actually celebrating our son's new Netflix Christmas special, and she was doing just fine. In fact, we were all at the event together at Netflix in the lobby. Sean, myself, the children, all having a great time. And I'm, grabbing Sean like, what? And she's in the back going, stop, So it was a really festive opportunity just for all of us to be together, because it's nothing like the circus that's out here. So it was a lot of the stuff, came to surprise, but a lot of the stuff will be revealed and that's why I thought it would be a good idea to finally tell my story. Every network came to me.
Y'all remember, as soon as Kim's alleged book was released, Al B took to his Instagram to react to a screenshot of Extra's headline, "Diddy's late ex, Kim Porter, revealed his twisted secrets and alleged diary entries." And in the caption, Al B wrote, 2009 through 2018, y'all said Al B Shore has lost his mind and told to go sit down when he stated this verbatim over time. And again on the day of KP's M. Ignored by law enforcement when he shared what LKP told him out of desperation and warned him to watch his back as well. Bad things. Y'all said, please, somebody get Al some medical help. He's lost his mind. In addition, in March 2024, Al insinuated that Diddy played a role in his 2022 coma. And he even said that he was working on a documentary that is going to shock the world.
We are going to be producing the Albie Shore life story. So hold on to your britches, and you'll really understand how I ended up in a coma. You're really gonna need to call Homeland Security.
But you all know that he had already been blowing the whistle for years. Like in November 2021, Al B claimed that in the time leading up to Kim's death, she was running from someone or something, and that he had told her to call the FBI. Then, shortly after uploading the post, Al B edited the last part of the caption and removed any mention of the FBI and said that Kim was running a marathon. Al had also previously remembered the moment he found out Kim had been pronounced dead by writing, "I just found this footage from the morning I learned of @LadyKP's aka #Kim Porter's death. And how it ripped the soul from my physical body. I do know very clearly that #Kimberly didn't just check out all of a sudden over pneumonia. That's some BS. Really? This is where I get in trouble." Al B actually tagged Diddy in the post to make sure Diddy saw how he thinks he was responsible, adding, "We just celebrated our son at Quincy's New Deal and Christmas special with @Netflix, and she was in fantastic health as well, laughing, seeing me and @Diddy's mutual exchange at the theater. I'm going to leave it here."
Thank you for grabbing a brew with us for these Diddy updates.
Please like and subscribe and join us next week for week 3 of Diddy in Court. Any reaction videos or deep dive topics you'd like us to cover, please send to grabyourbrew@gmail.com.
Again, that's grabyourbrew@gmail.com, and add in the subject title topic or reaction to the subject line.
So we don't mess it up.
So we don't mess it up, because we will otherwise.
We have done.
We have done. We have done. Have an amazing week.
Bye.
Bye.